Therabody, formerly known as Theragun, has created a growing community of loyal brand advocates since its official launch in 2016. In this industry innovators, Therabody's journey to the mainstream Fireside Chat, sit down with founder Dr. Jason Wersland and CEO Benjamin Nazarian to hear about the company's origin story, its natural progression from Theragun to Therabody, and how their community has continued to evolve and grow during a global pandemic as people's mindsets around the wellness has shifted throughout the last 6 months. I mean, obviously. This session will be moderated by Hawke's very own Bryce Henley. Bryce is a legend. Guys, just one last note, we're keeping the conversation going in Brand Club about the art of the drop, and I hope that we will have the Therabody crew to join us afterwards. Take it away, and we'll talk to you then.
Thanks, Stephen. As you mentioned, I'm Bryce. I sit on the strategy team here at Hawke, and I am pumped to be here with Ben and Dr. Jason here from the Therabody team. We've connected previously about some of the questions we're running through today, and I think we have what promises to be a fun and engaging time here. I'm super excited to talk to these guys. One quick caveat, we will be doing a Q&A towards the end of the session, so drop your questions in. I know there's a Slack channel. I want to say it's hashtag Theragun Fireside Chat mainstream, something like that. So dive on in. We'll do that. Obviously, I've done all of the homework as it pertains to the Slack channel. But Ben, Dr. Jason, good morning. How you guys doing?
Hey, good.
Good. Happy to have you here. So I've got a handful of questions. Want to keep this pretty natural, but let's start at the beginning. Ben, who are you? Who are you in Therabody? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And Dr. Jason, Ben Nazarian, CEO of Therabody. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. Have done a lot of work in terms of both private equity investments, venture investments, and running operating companies. And I think Jason will kind of tell you how we met and with his story. So Jason, you're up.
Yeah. This whole thing started from an accident. I'm the founder and creator of Theragun. And I started this thing out from an accident, really. I was in a motorcycle accident here in Los Angeles. I sustained from the injury. I got a lot of soft tissue damage in my neck and into my right side of my arm. And I as a chiropractor, I knew what I needed, but it was hard to provide that for myself. So I would go to the clinic and I'd get treated. And then I'd come home and I'd have, just like anyone else, I'd have those, days, 23 hours at the least between treatments where you're sort of lonely and scared and depressed and all those things that go along with an injury. And I was looking for something that I could heal myself faster so I could get back to being a chiropractor, and also something I could do myself. So I was introduced to the idea of vibration, and vibration was great, but it didn't seem to have a lasting effect on the tissues. So I figured I'd build something that, could punch the muscles. I sort of knew that that's what I needed. So I created something, and it really was out of a need. They say necessity is the mother of invention. So I created something in early 2008, in January of 2008. My injury was in October of 2007. And I started using this, Bryce, and it was the first time I used it was amazing. It like, I got goosebumps. It made me feel a certain thing that I'd never felt before, and it was relieving my pain. And so from 2008 into the middle of 2008, I used this thing on myself to just deal with pain, and then go through rehab, and then get back to where I was strong again. I could go to the gym and work out and do the things I love to do. And I was done. It served its purpose. Boxed it up, put it away. I was done with it. Patient came in several months later into my practice. And I say this a lot, Bryce, but I don't think that all of this would have happened had I not experienced this with this guy. But his paperwork came in front of me, and I didn't have a face to this, but suddenly the face was me. I started realizing this is my story all over again. And I knew that this guy, with his insurance and his visits and his income, wasn't going to get the treatment that he needed, and he wasn't going to get better. And so I thought, well, geez, I wonder if this thing will work on him. So I brought it in, and it did. So at that point, I felt an enormous obligation to figure out what this was. So from 2008 to 2015, when I met Ben, I created 5 different versions. Some of them I bought a bunch and sort of refurbed myself and sold them to different chiropractors and physios. I had 2 or 3 different business partners along the way that just didn't get the vision. And I just kept plowing away, kept moving ahead. And to be honest with you, one of the things that really was a voice I couldn't ignore was every time I used it on someone, it had an amazing, profound effect on them. And they would look back at me like, oh my gosh, you have to figure this out. So I couldn't get away from it. I had to figure it out. So when I met Ben in 2015, we can get into that a little bit, but he caught the vision. He realized what we were doing, and we both sort of aligned, and the last 4 years have been a whirlwind, like a rocket ship. It's been really a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we'll dive in here in a second into how, the iteration of Theragun and now Therabody has changed since Ben stepped onto the scene. But what was that first sales pitch like to that first patient of like, hey, I've got this thing I've built and I sort of want to try it out on you. How did that go?
You know what, Bryce, I honestly can tell you, I'm not a sales guy. If I'm passionate, just like you probably, if I'm passionate about something, I will explain it. And I had just come off my own experience with this thing. So it wasn't hard for me to find the sincerity of what it could do for him. So his wife came in, I'll tell you a little bit of the story, but he came in his first exam. We did x-rays. I looked at his diagnostic studies, and I asked him to come back the next day with his wife. And I knew I was going to bring this tool with me. Yeah. So I bring his wife in, and they sit down in the exam room, and I start explaining to him that I had just gone through what he had gone through, that, the loneliness and all the depression is one thing, but then what to do about that is another. And I explained to him, I felt powerless when I couldn't do anything for those hours during a day. And I recognized that he felt the same, and he had kids and he had bills and all those things. And I said, listen, I'm going to give you this, and your only job is to use it during the day when you're feeling pain anywhere on your body, and then bring it back to me, and then I'll do my work. And so it really wasn't, I think the only one was his wife. She looked at me like, are you crazy? What is that? I'm going to take that home and use it on my husband. But I think that it's just the same thing that Ben and I experienced over and over again, that it is different. It's different looking. It sounds different. It sometimes looks a little bit intimidating, but when it touches you and you feel it, it just immediately changes you. You feel something you haven't felt before. And so to answer your question, it really wasn't a hard sale, because I had just gone through it. Anyone that knows me knows I'm an emotional person, and I got a little emotional with these people, explaining to them how profound this was in my life. So it was to what we talk about a lot. I didn't sell it to them. I just explained to them what I thought it could do, and it just worked.
And it spoke for itself.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that makes sense. And, I've definitely in the conversations I've had and just sort of seeing, the Theragun experience, your passion definitely shines through. So I imagine that that's just a natural fit and a natural progression. So, then at some point, Ben Nazarian shows up. How did that happen? Tell us about this story and how meeting Ben has changed you, or how either changed things for you or to Theragun, or one and the same.
Oh, trust me, it's changed me in a lot of ways. It's changed my life 180 degrees. I mentioned earlier that I had a few business partners before I met Ben, and I experienced what it was like to have unpleasant, tumultuous experiences with a business partner. Bless you.
Bless you.
And when I met Ben, it was through some really cool circumstances, but I was set up to meet him with a deck, and I didn't have a deck. I'm a chiropractor. I didn't know what a deck was. I thought that was something I did barbecues on. I didn't know what a deck was. So I was supposed to put together this pitch deck,
You were just playing at barbecue.
Yeah, I tried to put it together, and I finally realized, you know what? The very most important thing is that Ben feels this and that Ben experiences this. So I made an appointment. I went to see him at his office. It's probably not a traditional pitch, but I knew that I needed him face down on a table so I could put this on his back, and then it would speak volumes. And so he came in, and I immediately felt like I knew him for a minute. I asked him, you know, I just put my chiropractor hat on. I wasn't there to pitch anything to him. And I just laid him on the table and I treated him, and he has a certain way of saying, holy shit. But he sat up and kind of looked at me with these, you know, wrinkles in your face you get from laying on a chiropractic table. And he was like, holy shit, what was that? And we talked, and I explained to him what I thought this could do and where I thought this could go in sort of my limited understanding of what it had done to that point. And I'm not kidding you, Bryce. He got it. He put his hand out, shook my hand, and it's been an absolute thrill since then.
Yeah, and it's funny because you know, I had this meeting was set up for me. Hey, I want you to meet Dr. Jason, and he's got this product he wants to show you. And you know, usually you walk into a meeting, it's like he said, it's a presentation PowerPoint, and they show you the product. I walk into the conference room. At the time, I was running our real estate company, but also doing a lot of angel investing and helping entrepreneurs build their companies. And that's how I met Jason. And he's got a chiropractic table set up in the conference room, which had never happened before. And he says, all right, hop on, I'll show you what this thing does. And I've had some back pain throughout my life. And so I've done pretty much every kind of treatment, whether it's physical therapy, deep tissue, manual muscle therapy, definitely not a massage. It's much deeper than that. STEM, all the things you can think about, other than surgery and pain medication. And so I've already been exposed to a lot of these different modalities. And Jason puts this big, loud, ugly thing on me. And I'm like, how is this thing jackhammering my back? But it doesn't hurt like when a massage therapist is putting their elbow in my back, and yet it's loosening me up faster and easier. So I kind of got it right away. I asked Jason, what's your goal for Theragun? And he said, I want everyone in the world to have one. And it was interesting for me because he didn't say, I want to sell a bunch of product. He didn't say, I want to be a billionaire. He literally said, I think this can change people's lives. And I want everyone to have the benefit of it. And I joked with him. I said, well, if you want everyone to have one, we have a successful business model. Because otherwise we're not going to be able to accomplish that goal. And you know, that mentality of Jason's has been part of our DNA of how do we really help everyone and how do they understand the benefit of our products. And you know, what's funny is when we started this, 2016, we launched, I was interim CEO. It was really just to support Jason. He's the expert. He's the doctor. He's the evangelist, if you will. And I was just trying to guide him through how to create a successful business model. So I was interim CEO. Never did we think that our company would be a category creator. And we would now be like the Kleenex of the category where people are even using our competitors and calling it a Theragun. We'd be in 60 plus countries. And we got our big break when Kyrie Irving used it during games, 5 of the championship in June of 2017. And that's when we blew up, and there's a lot of credibility attached to our company at that point. It went viral on Twitter, et cetera. So we started hiring really fast. And Jason turns to me and says, who's going to manage all these people? And I don't know if ignorance is bliss or I just didn't want to admit it. I said, you know, you hire really good people and they'll manage themselves. And we thought this is an eCom company, so we can have 15, 20 people. And you know, you're outsourcing a lot of the parts of the company from 3PL, logistics, manufacturing. How many people do we really need? And I think that was just me not wanting to admit that this thing's about to be a rocket ship. So as we hired them, I started becoming full-time CEO, and in 2017, started running the company full-time. And that's how I got involved.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's that's quite the initial meeting. And, you know, obviously that there's that aha moment. Anyone who's used a Theragun, you have that moment where it hits you and you're like, oh, got it, understood, 100% there. So, you know, that makes sense. But then as you start to look at the two of you in partnership, how did that conversation go? Was it just quickly, Ben, you were like, hey, I know that I need to jump in and sort of shift from interim CEO to managing this because it is a rocket ship? You mentioned you're a serial entrepreneur. What were some of the questions, some of the on-ramp considerations that you had to make as you stepped into a CEO role or stepped into this CEO role?
Yeah, you know what? It was really a very natural conversation. It wasn't like one day one of us came in and said, hey, I want this or this needs to happen. I think from day one, Jason and I have had a few things that have been the pillars of a very successful relationship. Number one, and I think we've tried to really share this with everyone in the company, it's always putting the company first. It's not what I want. It's not what Jason wants. Frankly, what we want or what we think is not really the priority. It's what is best for our customers, what's best for the company, and we make a decision based on that. And then with respect to our individual relationships, I would say, like any successful relationship or partnership, it's number one based on respect. I've said this to Jason and I've said it publicly and I'll say it again, Theragun, Therabody would not be what it is without Dr. Jason, and not because he invented the product. That was like the point of inception. It's everything that has happened since and he's done since. So understanding that contribution, respecting that role that he plays and what he brings to the table. And I think it's a mutual respect. True. So I would say second is a trust factor. There's an implicit trust between us. There's no secrets. We share all the good news, the bad news. We call it as it is. I hold him accountable. He holds me accountable. And we both need it. It's not coming from a bad place. It's coming from actually a good place. And three, like any startup, we've had our challenges. We've had our challenges both, I would say, from a personal standpoint, because every relationship has that. Otherwise, you don't have a real relationship. We've had it from a company standpoint. And when we're either frustrated, we always end up just communicating, and going back to those first two pillars, respect and trust. And that really helps solve whatever challenges we have to address. And I can't even say fights or disagreements, because that's probably, it never got to that point. It's just, I would say challenges, because companies as they grow have challenges. And if you're not growing, if you don't have challenges, then you're not growing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a part of that rocket ship that you mentioned. You know, you have to have your challenges. And I think being rooted in company and customers first, I think has probably made a lot of your decisions either straightforward or guided by the same, you know, North Star. That said, this year has had its unique batch of complications, to put it lightly. How have you seen the Therabody world or the Therabody community or your relationship shift in times of COVID? I think Dr. Jason, let's go with you first on this one. How has this year shown up differently in your world than either you were expecting or other years?
I think that the shift really became in where we delivered our message. Our message has kind of remained the same. And I think that's probably another thing that gave me the confidence that you need as you grow through these different challenges, and COVID being a big one for us. You know, we did a work from home on March 15th, and that was a long time ago. It seems like 5 years ago, you know, but we realized that our message was as valuable now, and even more so now than it was prior to COVID. You know, I think one of the things that's happened is people have become more centered. They've recognized the value of movement. They've recognized the value of ergonomics, of being able to work on yourself and being connected to yourself. And that's really part of the DNA of who we are, is really taking care of your own body. And as Therabody provides these natural wellness solutions that are backed by science, it now fits into your routine. And that's really our goal. So what we did really, Bryce, is we just shifted. and I'll let Ben talk about this a little bit more, but we ended up donating to hospitals. We did a first responder discount, and I created specific bespoke videos that were just for them. You know, if you're a nurse and you're on your feet 14, 15, 16 hours a day, what do you do this crazy Theragun? Like, this is really going to help me. What do I do with this? And so we just created some really cool videos, and we were able to roll out a really cool plan that helped people. And that was really to what Ben talked about earlier. We took a step back and said, people are in need. What can we do to help? And that was really sort of the goal we went about that. I'll let Ben talk about the specifics around that.
Yeah, I think COVID's been an interesting experience, to say the least. I feel like it's been really like you're in a boxing match, and every time you avoid one swing, another one's right after it, and we try to make sure we're not getting hit. And whether it was just a fear of the unknown or having LA go into shutdown, and how does that apply to our distribution center in Long Beach? But I think what it has actually done for us as a company is, number one, allowed us to really focus. And I think it has actually brought our company closer together, which is strange to say because we're on Zoom, we're not in the office, but everyone is now very much focused on what we have to do, very supportive of each other. And I think it's an unexpected benefit of COVID. From a business standpoint, like I said, it changed things dramatically. We were supposed to do 100 events this year, more than we even did last year. And obviously that came to a screeching halt. And how do you present a product that when you feel it, it gives you that aha moment instantaneously? Well, how do you do that over Zoom? How do you do that when you can't go to an event? Luckily, we're a D2C company first, and then we became omni-channel. So we really understand the digital landscape, and understanding how to pivot and take advantage of that digital expertise really helped us pivot fast. So as an example, we have trained over 1,000 trainers and massage therapists digitally via Zoom, where they actually got their CEUs. I mean, that's unbelievable. And if somebody said that to me a year ago, I think they're crazy. But I think it also speaks to being a startup. You got to pivot. You got to understand what your goal is. And I think we have a resilient bunch of people at our company, and nobody gave up, and everyone said, okay, this is the new deck that we've been dealt, and how do we take advantage of it? So from a business standpoint, I think there's a much greater focus on wellness, taking care of your body, people being at home and not being able to go to a gym as much, or being sore from working at home and having more time, not being able to go to a massage therapist or physical therapist. Our product is a great alternative to that. And so we did have a big tailwind to help our business during this time period. And being an e-commerce company, our retail sales came to a screeching halt, but we were able to take advantage of our e-com platform and drive business that way. So it's been a mixed bag, but no complaints. I think we're very fortunate compared to other industries.
Yeah, and I think the authenticity, just of you, Dr. Jason, but just of the Theragun Therabody team and community has shown through. Because if you're creating these videos for firefighters, first responders, and just utilizing that as one piece of the community, everyone has all this extra time to focus on their body or focus on recovery, or just take a dive into like actually building their mobility or their awareness of what they, you're sitting all day at home, so you have a new experience of that. So let's shift tacks a little bit, because you mentioned this earlier, Ben, but Theragun has become the Kleenex of this world, right? But we're talking to the Therabody team. What inspired the rebrand? What shifted gun to body? And then, how have you started to work your way into, I know we're stepping into CBD with Thera 1. How, walk me through this iteration, walk me through the shift.
Sure. Jason, you want to start with the Theragun name, and how many times you try to change that?
Yeah. You know what, Bryce, when this first started in 2008, I didn't know what to call this. I was looking for a name, and I was working with NASCAR guys in early 2009, 2010, and they'd call it the thumper, the jackhammer, and I finally had this moment with a friend of mine where Theragun came. It actually, funny story, it ended with a Z for a minute, so it was Theraguns. But when I started taking this out to work on golfers, track people, and I started using this word Theragun, I got, as you can imagine, I got a lot of pushback. Like, you can't call this gun. That's not politically correct or whatever. And I would think, yeah, but I have a glue gun and I have a staple gun. Why can't I have a Theragun? What's wrong with that? So it's interesting now, and Ben mentioned this, that we kind of created this space, but through those 8 years of me out there just running around with this Theragun, it became sort of this name, and now it's called the massage gun space, which I think is sort of funny looking back in history. But as I would use this around in my modalities, I realized that Theragun was just one of the many things we offered as a company. And Ben and I were having these conversations about, if we're going to do and be what we can, then we need to open this up so that Theragun is one of our offerings. And that's sort of where this kind of idea came about, and recognizing that we needed to evolve into something much bigger, because we both felt it. That's just sort of how it triggered that. And then Ben and I had a conversation, and I'll let Ben jump in, but that's kind of, Theragun was the name, and that's how we got out in the world, but it doesn't really represent all we do. And I think that's probably a little bit of what stirred on the Therabody idea. Ben, I'll let you jump in there.
I mean, funny enough, we got criticized so much, and obviously we're the first in the category, so there were no other guns out there that people can relate to. So we got emails and just conversations with marketing people, friends. You can't name this company with a gun. It's so offensive to people. And, starting in 2017, we really did try to change the name of the company from Theragun. And we looked at so many different things. And, I'm sure the audience recognizes how hard it is to name a company, whether it's to get the domain, and then you got to get the Instagram handle, Facebook, then trademarking it, and then it's got to be global in nature. And there was a number of names that were thrown around, and we never liked it. We never liked any of the names. And Theragun had become now this brand name, household name. And then we said, well, we have so much brand equity. How can we possibly change the name? But as Jason said, we always knew we wanted to do something bigger, and Theragun was limiting. It was great for our percussive therapy line, but not really covering our bigger mission in life as a company. So, and we call this the Theragun Angels. We're literally sitting around the room, and I don't remember who named it or how it came about, but we look at the entire body. We look at how do we help someone's body, and one of our mottos is Theragun is for every body, so for everybody's body. And I started just Googling, the domain Therabody was available. I said, how could this possibly be available? And then the Instagram was available, and the trademarks were available. So literally during the meeting, as we're brainstorming names, I registered the domain, and it stuck, and it became this holistic view of what we're trying to do, and it really embodies that grander mission that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like this mission of, effective natural solutions and combining education, innovation, and pioneering tech. And I think that does speak on an all-encompassing level to what Theragun and now Therabody does. So I just think that's a good commitment to what you're building, and going back to that company and customers first model and idea, that puts what you can build for the customers and the community at large. So that's awesome. And then walk me through stepping into, now that we have Therabody, the shift to CBD, the shift to what's next for Therabody. What are you setting your sights on from here?
Well, the CBD came from the idea that Ben and I were talking, and he was asking me about other modalities that I use, and what do you think of the CBD stuff? And I said, man, you know what? It's tough to trust that world. You don't know where it comes from. And Ben said, what's CBD? What is it for? And CBD, if people don't know this, is actually something our body makes, just like vitamin D and amino acids and proteins. And we can become deficient in those areas as well, just like any other vitamins. Your diet might do that. Your lifestyle might do that. Stress obviously adds that. And one of the things that people I don't think understand about CBD is that when you supplement your own cannabinoid system in your body with something on the outside, whether it's a lotion or an ingestible, it helps facilitate the communication between your nervous system and your immune system and your brain. And that's what keeps us functioning. So when you sleep, if I can tap into that part of your body that's feeding your nervous system and your immune system, you really recover now. And we think about recovery as this foam rolling, Theragun thing you do at the gym after you work out. But it's really, how will you sleep? How will your body rest it? And so as you can tell, I get passionate about this. I'm talking to Ben about how important it is. He's like, well, you know what? We need to figure this out. Like, there has to be a way for us to be able to provide something we can trust. You know, a lot of my clients are sort of special people. They have, like, you know, they're A-list celebrities, and you go all the way down to my mom. I don't want to give either one of these people, and just a regular customer that comes in as a patient, I don't want to give them something they take home and is lackluster, that doesn't meet their expectations. And that's what kept happening with some of the CBD I was using. And it was a problem. And I think that's one of the things that's unique about Ben. Ben sees a problem as an opportunity, and I see it sometimes as the room closing in on me. So I was like, you know what, I need it. I need something better. And that's how really CBD came about. And then, you know, I can't take all the credit for that. It's a lot of what Ben drove. But that's sort of how we went from Theragun to Therabody. And then we have added this Thera1 in, and the two products themselves work so well together, whether I'm doing it on myself or I'm doing it on a patient or another client, or it's something we are recommending a protocol through our app to somebody else. They just work so well hand in hand together.
Yeah. And what, as we think about just recovery, which is one piece of our market, Theragun is amazing for that. Actually, most people don't know this. A Theragun, you know, for 2 to 10 minutes before you go to bed helps you sleep better. But now we also have a CBD sleep tincture, which really complements that. So you can use either one by itself, or use both of them together, and it works even better. Or we have recovery lotions you can do before and post activity. And I've actually tested this myself, where, you know, I went skiing one day, I put one on one leg and then didn't use it on the other leg. And the leg that didn't have it, I was sore. And I'm like, wow, this thing really does work. So CBD is very effective. There's nobody, and as Jason said, we didn't really trust anybody out there. And we wanted to see, how do we improve it? How do we make a better product? So we came out with our own proprietary product. It's not private labeled. We're the only company in the entire industry that has a full line of USDA certified organic, which was very, very challenging. But again, if we are giving something to our customers that is going to be absorbed in their body, we want to make sure it's good for them, not full of toxins. So that was a very important criteria for us. But it also speaks to, I think, the opportunity for our company. Most people think of Theragun as a fitness recovery device. And actually, most of our customers use it for regular pain, muscle tightness. And whether it's somebody sitting behind a Zoom desk, or whether it's someone who's working out, or they have plantar fasciitis, sciatica. Jason treats a stroke patient who has severe muscle pain. Theragun helps in that regard as well, but it doesn't do everything. And so CBD helps complement and provide a more complete solution. So it was a very natural fit for what we're doing. And then Therabody helped kind of explain that greater mission. So we felt it was the right time to change the name of the company.
Yeah, that makes sense, and seems to be a natural progression, and seems to just all be aligned. And again, I think we're coming back to the same thought, excuse me, the same thought about putting the customers first and understanding, you know, that it's more than just, all right, I worked out and now I need to recover, or, you know, I have specific pain and now I need to address it. It can be all encompassing. So I appreciate that a lot. And I think that's something that you've given people the tools to understand at a better level. So looking into, what you've learned, I guess we'll start with you, Ben, because it's been, 4-ish years, but what would you say the biggest lessons that you've learned since joining the Therabody team? What would you want to instill on someone who's watching this from afar?
I think, and somebody asked me, how do you go from running a real estate company to an e-commerce company? And I think business is business and good management is good management. And so some of those things that, I would say these characteristics apply to any business. So number one, it's understanding that there's a lot of things I don't know. I'm not an expert in e-commerce. I never ran an e-commerce company. So it's about hiring the best people and hiring people who know a hell of a lot more than I do, and then giving them freedom to execute and trusting them to do that. As a company, we've been trying to make sure we are running fast, we're innovating, we're driving the technology leadership. And I think that's true for any business as well. Third, it's really listening to our customers and prioritizing them. And at the end of the day, they're going to help determine your success. So why not listen to them? I would say maybe the thing that I learned, maybe the biggest surprise, was how quickly this industry has grown, how quickly it's evolved, and how quickly the Chinese knockoffs came and they're imitating this percussive therapy massage gun category. We knew would happen, but I didn't think it would happen this soon. And when we started seeing all these companies showing up on Amazon, it kind of actually got me more excited, because I realized that means that this is a really big space, that there are 1,000 little companies trying to nibble at our heels. And now we better really start running, and we better make sure we're leading the pack. Otherwise, there's a lot of people who are hungry and they're going to eat your lunch. So we got to keep ahead of it.
Sure. Yeah. And it's funny that I just got sent a handful of questions that we'll move into here in a moment, but that's top of the list is other people joining the space and copycats. But to carry on in that thread, Dr. Jason, what are your key lessons, the biggest lessons you've learned since you hopped on the bike that one day?
I get asked this a lot, and I'll keep this really simple. I've learned that there are many imitators, but never a duplicator. We were able to kind of bottle up or package up what I experienced for 10 or 12 years before meeting Ben. And I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned, that you can't recreate this magic. Other companies are trying to do that with their product. There's something special about what we have, and I've learned that. It becomes more and more apparent to me. And then the second thing is connecting with people. The power of this product to connect with other people. I joke with our company a lot of times when I go out and travel that I wish I had a GoPro on my head. Man, I made it this far. I'm not going to get emotional. But I wish I had a GoPro on my head so people could see the reactions that I have that happen with me, whether it's a professional soccer player or a girl that has scoliosis or a camera guy at a film crew in London. The reaction that people have about these products. And so I started learning that it's really selfish of me to be the only one that gets that experience. And so one of the things that we've realized is this thing is probably, and I'm not joking, the very best gift to give anyone. And it's not because you're giving that gift, it's the experience of, I'm giving you this thing and it's going to make you feel a certain way. Trust me, you're going to love it. And I've learned that sharing that ability to share that with others is so powerful. And I'll give you an example what I mean by that. If I meet a new influencer or someone that I have a relationship with, we don't know how it's going to develop. There could be a lot of things, contracts and money and all that. But the very most important thing that I want them to do is give me a list of 3 people who you love the most. I will send a package to them on your behalf. It won't come from me. It won't come from Therabody, but it comes from you. And they get this experience of giving something to someone that never gets old. It continues to give back to them. And that's probably, honestly, the most profound lesson that I've learned is there's something powerful in taking this product and giving it to someone else and allowing them to do something that's special and unique to them. I'd probably not articulating it right, but that's probably one of the best lessons I've learned.
No, I think that was really well articulated. And I think that's, you know, a very straightforward, and I mean, that makes sense, right? And I've seen just in the videos and just in talking to you now for a couple of hours and an hour today, I can really feel that coming through, that you've experienced that, you see that, and you truly believe that. So I think you did just fine, sir.
And I think one thing, Bryce, just to add to that,
yeah,
and I think this comes from Jason, and it has become, again, it just kind of permeates our culture, which is this positive attitude. We all have crappy days. We all have setbacks. We all have something bad happen. And especially when we travel. And we've had this saying in this company that when something bad happens, something even better is right around the corner. And so it helps us reset our mind in terms of, all right, kind of flush that bad thing and get ready for that good thing to happen. And I think it has created a culture of positivity that really helps kind of get through, again, all of the growing pains of a startup.
Sure. Yeah. Optimism and positivity can definitely push you through to like see what's around the corner and stick around.
And nobody talks about that. I think it's one of those things that a lot of entrepreneurs, startups really don't talk about. But I think it's been really helping us through some of those challenges that we face. And it's like, all right, gives us the energy to keep going through and fighting through that resistance.
Sure. Well, yeah, I feel like there's a culture almost in startups or smaller companies or tech companies where you have to work hard, and it's got to be hard and it's got to be difficult. So having the other side of that it's refreshing, and it's keeping you guys both focused. So we have a couple of questions here from, I'm going to gesture broadly to the people at home. Tiffany wants to know, this goes to the copycats question. Have there been a lot of obviously there have been a lot of Theragun copycats since the launch. How have you dealt with the competition? Do we have a utility patent to protect it? How has that process gone to basically insulate, Theragun from that risk?
Ben, you want that one?
Yeah, I'll take it. First of all, I think it helped us really establish the marketplace. It has brought awareness to the marketplace. It shows the size of the marketplace. And I think competition is good. I think it has made us a better company. It has made us be more creative, more focused, and making sure that we are thinking outside the box. And it has forced us to be ahead of the curve. We're the only company in the industry that is on their 4th generation of launch of products since launching our 1st generation in 2016. Jason had 5 generations before that, so we're technically on our 9th generation. So I think that is part of our strategy, which is driving the innovation. And we're the first company to have Bluetooth and having it connected to an app. In addition to that, we have over now 70 patents worldwide, which is why you don't see any products that are similar to ours. And all the copycats have the hairdryer shape, because that's a generic, commoditized, frankly, not much engineering that goes into that shape and those specs. So we do use patents as a way to protect our IP, but it can't be the end all be all. Customers don't care about your patents. They care about the quality of your product and what's the full service offering that we provide. And so whether that's the app, whether it's content, pro athletes, they want a complete solution. Gyms want a complete solution, and they want a commercial grade product that is not going to break, that's reliable. Every attachment is designed by Dr. Jason for the body part, make sure it works and it's tested. And then we have a lot of education that goes around it. A pro athlete, when an NFL quarterback calls Jason and says, how do I use this? How do I warm up with it? That's part of our IP and that content. And that athlete now is part of our ecosystem, part of our family, and doesn't care about price, doesn't care about some cheap knockoff. They want what we offer through our full education as well. So I think it's having the full solution and not just focusing on a product. And that's the difference between a product company and a brand.
Got it.
And to add to that, Bryce, I think the magic about this is Ben gets to focus on those things that are really important from a business aspect. And I get to stay focused on the things that are really important for product development. I'm just staying in my lane. I mean, you think about large companies like Tesla and some of these other companies, they're not so concerned about what other people are doing because they have a mission of their own. And that's what I've got. I have a mission of my own with the products, with the experience, with the education, with the understanding, with the science, with the validation. And that allows me to stay in my lane. And it really allows Ben to maximize and really profoundly affect the company from his perspective as a business side.
Yeah. By the way, funny enough, I can't tell you how many people have actually bought those Chinese knockoffs and then emailed us or put it on social saying, now I know why Theragun is the brand leader and why it's more expensive because that thing didn't work and you have now solved whatever their problem is. And so at the end of the day, quality is quality. And I think people recognize that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense. Our next question comes from Alice. Is there a 40 plus community in your customer group? And if yes, how do you target them? Are they more focused on pain relief or health or something else?
When we turn, I was going to be a smart aleck. When other people turn 40, I'm older than that, but as we age, you know, this is going to be a little bit crazy, but I'll go out there. As we age, our body becomes less flexible. And there's a lot of causes for that. And I can get into that science side of things, but we just become less mobile, less flexible, less pliable. And yes, absolutely, there is a use and a need for that category 40 and over, because that's when your brain still thinks you're 32, but your body's not 32 anymore. So you want to move in the same way as you did before. And I'm telling you, please trust me, there are people who have implemented this into their life and are performing better, feeling better at 45 than they did at 35. And I can give you a list of that. It's ex-pro athletes and it's just regular everyday people who are discovering what this thing can do for their body. So I think for me, to what Ben said, a great challenge is we have a 30-day rebate, 30-day refund. If you don't like it in 30 days, send it back. In those 30 days, do your hardest workout and only treat half your body and tell me Theragun doesn't work.
Yeah. And, you know, I fall into that everyday consumer category. I'm definitely no marathoner or pro athlete or weekend warrior. But if I Peloton in the morning and I don't recover, and trust me, I've stretched and it's just not as effective. But if I don't Theragun afterwards, sitting behind a desk all day, by 3 o'clock, my muscles are this tight and I can barely walk. Yeah. So as we get older, our bodies actually need it more, not less. So it's surprising that how many high school athletes are using a Theragun, because you would think their bodies bounce back like this and they don't need it, but they use it as well. And they understand if you recover right, you can actually work out more often. And even more importantly, especially for our age, because I'm over 40, it helps prevent injury, because tight muscles is more likely to lead to injury. So there is a use case for every type of person and every age group.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think as you know, as you age, you're right. Like it's just mobility becomes more of a concern, and I think to the other end, to the younger end, establishing that habit of the both the physical but also the emotional side of that is important. I do have a question from Emma with along those lines. Do you consider the Therabody brand more tied to physical health or emotional well-being? Or where, if we have the spectrum between the two, where do we fall?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's both. Our emotional well-being is channeled through our thalamus, which is a part of our brain that allows you to experience smells, touches, sensations, emotions. And if you're not psychologically balanced, no matter what you do on the physical side, it's just not going to work. I mean, we had a really neat call this morning with an amazing athlete who talked about how so much of it was in his head. Was it just the right attitude and having the right experience and setting up routines so that his brain is in the right state of mind? So I think that you look at Theragun and it looks like something that you use on the physical part of your body. But I'm going to teach you something. Theragun talks to your body in a frequency. And that frequency is what they call in the side of gamma wave frequencies. And gamma waves to the thalamus provide peace, overall sense of well-being, and a relaxation. Who doesn't need that? And so when you're providing this on your body, like we were just talking about, yes, it takes away the physical soreness. It's the best recovery device you can buy, but there's also the psychological effect to this. Ben talked about using it for 5 to 10 minutes before you go to bed. Try it. It will knock you out. It puts your body in a parasympathetic state. Bryce, it literally flips that switch. It's like a light switch. You use Theragun for 8 minutes before you go to bed, you just flipped on the parasympathetic switch. So I would hope that people can understand that it is the same, physical and mental. It's the same. You're talking to the same being. It's us. It's our body. It's not like I take my brain out and I treat my body and I put my brain back in. So it's really important that people understand there are aspects to both of these, and having the opportunity to work with the best athletes on the planet, they understand this. And that's really what I feel like we're trying to do. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think to make that point even better, talk about what you've done with vets from the military and PTSD and how Theragun has helped them, because that's the best example of mine.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up, Ben. You know, when we have PTSD, whether it's from military experience or sometimes you have domestic experiences that cause these traumas, you know, you see a lot of the things that are happening in the world right now that really give you that sort of feeling of PTSD. One of the things that we worked with a clinic in Atlanta, and she, when COVID hit, she has a lot of patients of hers that have PTSD, and she realized that using Theragun through a Zoom call, the client having a Theragun and then her communicating with them through Zoom was actually grounding them because it turned on their parasympathetic. So their left brain, which is all this logic, why should I be messed up? Why am I so messed up? And you get into the right side of the brain, which is feeling, emotion, connecting, that relaxation part. Theragun, and it's just our mini as well, has the ability to turn that part of the body on, which shuts down all that chatter. So I think it's a really good example Ben brought up. I forgot about it, but the ability this has to ground your body from a psychological perspective is something we don't talk about enough.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that, you know, it's so easy, like you were saying, to forget that those two are part of the same system, right? Everything sort of works together. Everything is connected.
Yeah. And Bryce, people want to separate it. And I'm going to be real adamant about it. It's not. They're the same. When I work on someone, I lay them on the table. If their brain is going, I'm no good. It doesn't matter what I do to them. I've got to shut that brain down and let the body start functioning correctly. So it's really important that people understand they are one and the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's terrific insight. And if it works, then it works, right? I think that's, that's especially dealing with something like PTSD, where there's so much that you can address and treat. That effectiveness is incredible. Sort of moving away from, what part of the body and physicality or emotional well-being you talk to. Let's talk about marketing, right? As we're into, COVID and everything is purely D2C, what have you found your biggest acquisition channels for growth? This is a question from Max. So, he's asking paid ads, influencer referrals, email, PR. Dr. Jason, I know you've done a lot of pounding the pavement, as it were, and actually being in communication with athletes and, like you were saying, level one celebrities and whatnot. But what have you found has been your biggest acquisition channel or biggest acquisition activity?
Yeah, when we've tried, I would say one channel, it hasn't worked as well. So we kind of take a multi-channel approach, and they kind of feed off of each other. So even though we're an omni-channel company now, we want our customers to have the best experience and get a Theragun whatever is most convenient for them. So a lot of companies, they're fighting their retailers. We look at them as part of us and another distribution point, especially for a product where somebody wants to touch it, feel it before they buy it. So we don't really lean D2C versus retail. On the digital side, I would say predominantly we focus on digital marketing acquisitions through Instagram, Facebook, Google, but we make a big push on the influencer side, make a big push on the PR side, and the fact that so many athletes already use the product and they post and we're not paying them to post obviously helps build up brand awareness and credibility. And we think that where we're headed in terms of Q4, Q2 retail has shut down, but we expect a lot of growth from our retail channels, especially as we get into the holidays and people are looking for gifts that are much more wellness oriented and about taking care of your body, which seems to be the theme of COVID, and wellness in general. The retail channels are going to really be pushing this as the holiday gift item for Q4. So we're very excited by kind of what's about to happen for the holiday season.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Dr. Jason?
No, I mean, Ben manages a lot of that stuff. I mean, my goal honestly is I'm a tool to the marketing team. I'm not the one that dictates necessarily where it goes, but when they come and say, we need this information, what does that sound like? It literally is just sort of sharing with them the same information I would share with a patient, and they take it and they channel it wherever they channel it. So that's, again, back to what makes this relationship work so well is I fulfill my role, and then Ben and the rest of the company can take that and do the things they do, work their magic.
Yeah. Comes back to that the trust and accountability across the board. So awesome. Well, thank you guys. Sort of in closing, rumor has it that there's a lucky attendee of the session is going to be a winner of a Theragun. So Dr. Jason, Ben, I'd love it if you were able to announce the winner. We went through a random name selector. Guys, take it away.
Well, we're excited to share, as I said, I think this is a great holiday gift. It's part of our DNA to give back and have people enjoy the benefit of it. So we are giving a Theragun Elite with a charging stand to John Levine. So John, we hope you enjoy it and helps you stay loose and limber and injury and pain-free.
John Levine, with that last name, you better be able to dunk a basketball.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the time, guys. Ben, Dr. Jason, thank you both so much. I think we promised people a fun session, and I hope we gave it to them. But thank you